Afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the City Chatter Podcast. I'm John Bernstrom, Public Information Officer for the City of Grand Forks, your host for this episode of City Chatter, where I'm joined by Ward 4 Council Member Tricia Lunski. Tricia, thank you. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's finally feeling like a fall day out there today, isn't it?
It really is.
We've been spoiled so far this fall, so we're.
Yeah, I'm hoping you can give me some advice with my mums, because I don't know, do you plant them? Do you bring them in? What do you do with mums?
Yeah, wrong Bernstrom. You need Mrs. Bernstrom in that standpoint.
Noted.
As we had the conversation beforehand, there are some people who have the ideas, and some people just like, oh, I know how to execute that. I just didn't think of the idea. I'm the execute guy, not the come up with an idea guy.
Okay. Noted.
So Trish, some city council matters that have happened over the past few weeks. If you want to touch on the Turf and Aquatics, the Ultra Sports Complex, schematic design has been finalized by City Council. Now it's going more of the details of what to bid out. Can you talk about some of that discussion at council and what came out of it and what's going to be in this facility?
Yes. So I think right now for me, it's budget. I just really want this. I want a turf facility. I want a pool more than anyone. I just really want it to stay on budget. I want it to stay what Grand Forks can afford. So I think that's my biggest concerns right now.
And along those lines, at the city council meeting last night, City Administrator Todd Phelan had a conversation with you and the rest of the city council members of going on pretty much, hey, we're going to go on a tour around and look at facilities to see what $1 million gets you, right?
Yes. Yep.
So what are some things you talked about being on budget, but like where are you willing to pull back in order to add?
For me, I think windows right now. I don't think windows are really, all the windows are needed. When you're playing pickleball or soccer, you don't want that sun in your eyes. So some of the designs I've seen now, it's very expensive windows that require very expensive window treatments. That was just one thing that came to mind. The $1.5 million in glass for the atrium, maybe we can cut down on that.
Sure.
But I'd rather focus on things like the full turf, the second pool, kind of making those more of a priority. I'm not saying make it ugly, but I just really want to stay on budget.
You mentioned the second pool. I thought that was interesting. I'm not, I'll use the term swimming community. Like I'm not in that, but they talked about how that second pool, is it a cooling pool, warm-up pool? Warming pool?
Yep.
Is very important if you want to go after tournaments, state tournaments. I'm assuming you can throw in regionals, all other things. Not realizing that was key to those bid processes.
Yes, and also swimming lessons. So if you have two pools, you could have lessons, like high school practice going on.
Sure, competitive.
Yep. And you could still have lessons in the other pool.
Oh, okay. No, that makes sense.
I still think we should throw our kids in the cold pool, but
right, a deep lake where we can't see the bottom. I'll figure that's fine. Yeah, whatever. Also discussed, and I'm bringing this up because this was specifically something that you pulled at a council meeting. The city is looking at reconstructing North 4th Street in front of Central High School. And having some of the design aspects match like North 3rd Street downtown, and trying to make it all come together. You had some questions on that project. What was something you were looking to see there?
So the drop-off lane, where is that?
For Central High School.
Yep.
Yeah.
So there isn't a great place to drop off your kid. I think most parents, me being one of them, you're generally running late. You want to get your kid. I think most kids from Central, they say, come from the south, drive north. So on 5th Street, to get them to the front door, they do have to cross the street. I realize they're 15 to 18-year-olds, but there's nowhere to pull off. We've never been really told where to pull off.
Sure.
So we had ideas. The Blue Zones brought an expert, and they had a mid-block crosswalk. And that meeting was after it was supposed to be voted on in council. That's why I pushed it a week. And so there's some things being worked on.
Yeah. Now, having worked downtown for 18 years, and it's interesting with Central High School how the drop off and the pickup. It is very busy when it happens, but man, it's quick.
Yeah.
I got to work this morning at 5 to 8, and it's a traffic jam. I walked to a meeting in a separate building at 8:05, and I was alone on the street.
Yep.
It's
Well, there had to be a few stragglers because we all have those teenagers.
Sure, but majority of the drop off was done. Talk about the balancing of when it's busy. It's really busy, but it's not busy all. It's not like a continuous problem. Talk about trying to balance that as a council member in your decision making.
Right, and it's urban. We, totally understand. I think Central wants to be there, downtown wants it there.
Oh yeah.
So we're just trying to make it work. And then with Fifth Street, they now open the secondary door for security reasons. It's only open until 8, so now kids can come in on both sides.
Sure. After 8:00, they have to go in the main door.
Yep.
Okay. No. Interesting. My kids don't go to Central, so I know the struggles at other schools as far as pick up and drop off. Just letting you know, it's not specific to Central.
Oh, 100%. I remember the Phoenix days.
Oh yeah. They get going. You are also you're on several boards, but one of the boards you're on, you're the co-chair of the Downtown Development Association board, correct?
Yes.
Talk a little bit about there's always activities going on. But you mentioned downtown, vibrancy of downtown in an urban area. Talk about some things as a board member on the DDA that you guys have coming up.
So one thing, I still haven't been able to do it because I'm kind of a chicken, is that it's a haunted walking tour. And I think it's fascinating. They also have a regular walking tour where you can learn history, but this has a scarier edge to it. And I believe it's sold out for this weekend.
Oh, really?
But yeah, they have. I'm not supposed to tell too much because they have some.
Sure. Yeah.
Their ending is a surprise.
Okay.
But you can go walk around downtown and get scared.
Yeah. How long have you been on that board?
5 years, maybe?
I was gonna say the dynamic of downtown is almost flipped a complete 180 in probably those 5 years, but in the past decade of just the amount of I work downtown, the amount of foot traffic, the amount of just people downtown is changed dramatically.
And the DDA pays for a placer, so they get reports.
Oh, sure.
And I think it's 21,000 cars per day go through downtown.
Oh, I believe that.
Which is mind-blowing.
Right, I believe that. And I believe if I read somewhere DDA at one point did where it tracks, cell phone pings off of a certain tower, and if it goes up or it goes down, it's a way to track, just people.
Yeah.
And how that has gone up.
Yes. And also, I forgot, they're having trick-or-treating this Saturday also.
Oh, trick-or-treating downtown.
Yes,
there you go.
Kiddos, so.
For your kiddos. That's just a natural segue. If anyone knows anything about trick-or-treating in this town, it's you based on where you live. You live in that Phoenix neighborhood area. If anyone has ever been driving around Grand Forks on Halloween, that is the center of the Halloween universe.
It's
right there.
It's the place to go.
So my wife and I, we got excited last year because we had more than 50 kids come to our door. Can you tell us the most, you told me before, the most kids in your neighborhood that you've seen?
Yeah, so our neighbor keeps track, and it was, I'm not sure which year, it was just a few years ago, over 1,000 kiddos.
1,000 kids.
Yep.
That's almost hard to keep up with.
Yes, so my husband and I, we came up with the candy reduction program.
Sure.
Not really, but he wanted to make it scary.
Right.
And so a lot of kids were too scared to come to our house.
Right.
So yeah, we called it the candy reduction
But
program.
then you get the teenage kids.
Right.
You get the teenage kids.
Right. And a lot of curious kids, because my husband would hide a speaker in the bushes.
Sure.
And he would sit in the window and make
talk
noise.
to it?
Yes. So then when they were trying to interact with it, and he wouldn't interact.
But then he would?
Yes. And one year he had a CO2, I don't know what you call it, CO2 blaster. It was so loud. I'm sure like a few kids probably peed their pants. It was so scary.
So that's the candy reduction house is you make it scary enough the kids don't.
Yes.
But it's for an evening, the amount of foot traffic in your neighborhood, Belmont, just that whole area there by Phoenix Elementary, it is kind of fun. My wife and I, we went this past weekend. We were a long weekend with no school. We went to Anoka, which is the self-proclaimed Halloween capital of the world.
Oh,
Self-proclaimed.
Okay.
Right? But they lean into it hard. And we thought it was interesting. It wasn't even Halloween. And you could barely walk up and down the streets.
Really?
Kids in costume, the chamber and the businesses all leaned into it. And that's a citywide thing there in Anoka. But what we notice is we're just like, this feels like Belmont Road on Halloween.
In a couple years, they've had some groups that have helped kids cross the street.
Yes, I think UND steps in with that. Yeah.
Yep, and there's some food trucks in the past. Just lots of excitement.
No, that's a lot of fun. That's a lot of fun. Okay, we'll get back to city business here now. One thing, it's not really, it's your ward, but your ward is right along the Greenway. The city of Grand Forks getting that National Parks Association grant.
Yes,
to,
very
to
exciting.
do some work downtown in the Greenway.
Right.
Of course, not sacrificing our flood protection or anything like that, but making some enhancements. You know that section of the Greenway really well.
Yes, I do.
What are some things that I've seen this list of, all those things look great. It's like a Christmas list, right? You want all of it.
Right.
But what are some things do you think are feasible on that?
Well, a lot of talk about an amphitheater.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of talk about possibly a walking bridge. I've seen some renderings. What's the old?
Oh, it's the old railroad bridge. The story behind that is after the flood, because it was a railroad bridge that turned into a walking bridge, and people could walk across the bridge. After the flood, Corps of Engineers says that needs to come down. From my understanding, they got part way down and have that pillar left, and then Corps is just like, no, it's fine.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's fine. But we were kind of shooting from the hip there after the flood, trying to just dig out.
Yeah. And so I've heard about making that even like a halfway bridge where.
Oh, almost like an overlook.
Yes.
Yeah.
I've seen lots of renderings for updated bathrooms, kind of over by Town Square, incorporating Town Square more into the Greenway. There's just been so many ideas, so I'm really excited to see what happens.
So the grant that the city got is $3 and change million, but it's a 1-for-1 grant.
Yep, 3.5.
So
close to.
you don't have to spend all of it, but whatever you come up with doing, you can use this money, but the city's got to kick in an equal amount.
Right.
Do you think there's an appetite in the city council to do the whole 3.5?
Oh, I think they'd be crazy not to. I hope so. I guess we haven't talked about it.
Right, hasn't come to that point, but I'm just curious, right?
Yes.
It's a gift.
I'm going with yes. We have a huge appetite for it.
Yeah, but it's for those wondering, it's the state came to the city and said this grant application and heck, your Greenway downtown qualifies. Why not apply?
Right.
That's kind of how this whole thing started.
Well, I can't speak on that, but I know Kim Greendahl and Melanie Parvey worked. We met a few times. I was on part of the committee. I know they worked really hard on that.
Yeah, so that's one that I think can be a lot of fun. It's
agree.
that Greenway's a blank canvas. Of course, we need it when it floods. So whatever you put down there, whether kind of like the boat ramp, right?
Right.
Just make it so we can deal with flooding.
Right.
And then so that always kind of has to be in the back end. You put a playground down there. It's okay.
Yep. Like the dog park. That floods every few years.
And I don't know. You weren't on council, obviously, but I worked for the city at that time. And when there was a proposal for that dog park, that filled a room of a lot of no's, don't want it. Mm-hmm. And now every spring is, when is the dog park opening? When is the dog park opening?
Right.
Every flood, it's just like I can walk down there, I can see it. It's fine. We can use it, can't we? Can't we?
Yeah. It's interesting. I wonder if the people who are so against it still hate it, or if they now like it.
It would be curious, right? There was the concern of it's you walk into like a dog kennel and dogs are barking all the time. It's going to be like that.
Yeah.
It's not.
Right.
But it's easy for someone to say it's not going to be like that. Trust me. Right. And that you have to demonstrate that trust.
Yep. I live close enough, and I don't believe I've ever heard it, and I am outside a lot.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. You're what? You're
Throw.
3 wood away from the dog park. You can get there. Yeah. It's no problem. So with that, one other thing that came to the council yesterday, and there's a meeting today. Still moving forward with hoping to expand air service at the Grand Forks Airport. Our consultants were in town, gave a quick talk to the council yesterday. What are some of the things that they gave you an update on? Or was it more of just, we're here, we're still working?
Yeah, a little bit of that. Still hoping to add the 4th flight from Delta. Allegiant's hoping to expand. And then hopefully United will come on in to Grand Forks also.
So it's kind of all the above. Expand what we currently have and maybe add another airline.
Yep.
Right. No. Okay. No, that's good to know.
I think the Delta 4th flight would be fantastic.
We used to have it, right?
We used to have 5.
Well, and then we got down to 3.
Yep.
And you notice you're just like, wait a second.
Right. It's either you leave at 5 a.m., or coming home at midnight.
Yep. That's your options.
I'm getting older. Those are tough hours.
I've made that 5 a.m. flight many times. That's
Which-
a long day.
5 a.m. is not bad, but when you have to get there at 4:15, like you're up at 3. That's kind of ridiculous.
My favorite is I had that 5 a.m. flight. I was flying in at Denver. I landed in Denver at 9:30 in the morning. Like I couldn't get to the hotel.
Yeah,
I couldn't.
right.
I went to a museum.
With your luggage.
The hotel, thankfully, was nice enough to say that. I'm like, can you just take my bag? You can put it in a locked room somewhere. I'm here for a while.
Yep.
And
Those are
they're
tough days.
yeah, those are tough. So I have you on as a council member and as your day job, right? You have very unique perspective on this, and I'd like to pick your brain a little bit. It's throughout this summer been in the news. Is it the Moon Dance Jam there by Walker pulled back their music festival? Costs working with touring acts was getting difficult. The way payments were made. So, I mean, a huge festival that got pulled back. Just got news here in the Grand Forks area within the past month that the country music festival that goes on in East Grand Forks, what is it called? Hot Valley Nights.
Happy Harry's.
Happy Harry's Hot Valley Nights. That they were done. You've done the Greenway takeover before. You've talked about how difficult that is. Can you just talk about that industry, in that the music festival industry, and what makes it's obviously difficult, and obviously maybe things have changed over the years to make it more difficult. Can you talk about that a little bit?
I think staffing is probably the hardest. You don't really want to schedule someone from 8 a.m. till 2 a.m.
Sure.
You feel kind of a jerk for multiple days in a row. But just even at the Greenway, we could find someone to do garbage. And we were willing to pay, it was like a 4-hour minimum, $18 an hour.
Mm-hmm.
It took about 1 hour, so you'd make $78 in 1 hour. Couldn't find anyone. I had to do it.
Really? Yes. And you pay yourself $78.
Yeah, right? I still am waiting for that.
Yeah.
I think so. Staffing was a huge part. Just people maybe aren't looking for that part-time job anymore.
Sure.
But I also think that the costs of everything have just really kind of gone up. From the acts are more expensive, getting in, the specialized labor that you need is harder. We do live very remote, so to get people here is very expensive. Even if you fly a band in and now their crew, that might be 10 people. Well, that's 10 airline tickets. Then you have 10 hotel rooms. It's just prices seem to be going up and up.
So that brings up talking about the acts. So without getting into specifics, I understand there's contracts and stuff, and I get that. But just working with are you working with a touring company? Are you working with the band itself directly? Is it payment up front? So if you have a rainy weekend, a tough break, you still have to pay them. Kind of how does that aspect work? Working with the acts for a festival like that?
Yeah, 100%. The acts are not. They're there. Your contract says they're getting paid.
Okay.
So most of them, it's 50-50. You give them a 50% deposit, and then you pay 50% when they get there before they play.
Before they play.
Yep. What was your other question?
Well, just okay. So they get paid no matter what.
Yes.
They get paid no matter what.
As the festival producer, you're taking the risk because you're also the one who maybe could do very well.
Sure.
But it's generally all on you, the venue. It's not their risk unless it's like the Alaris Center putting it on. But yeah, it's all about the producer, which is hard because if it rains and nobody shows up,
Sure.
you're out.
Right, and with any outdoor festival anywhere,
Yes.
that's always there. But my second part of that question was: are you working with? I know there's these touring companies, right? So are you working with them, or are you working directly, just connections with those bands from your experience?
So the bands we got, we weren't working on Taylor Swift level.
Sure.
So sometimes we would work with their manager. Sometimes there would be a middleman, but it was generally with the band. I mean, we were never calling up the band, but it was their manager.
Sure. Then directly, because that's, and then it's reputation based a little bit too, right?
Right.
That's word in the street that was a good show, and
Yes.
we got paid, and they talk, don't they?
Right. Oh, 100%. And if you take care of the band, you stock their green room and you're
Sure.
on time and you just make it easy for them. Yeah, they definitely won't 100% talk.
So along those lines, again, your perspective, you've done this, I haven't, so I'm just asking you. It seems to be a struggle, right? Red River Valley Fairs talking about how they took it in the pants this year. We talked about the ones that aren't going to happen in the future or have changed dramatically. What do you think is a change that needs to happen in order for these to? Even We Fest took a couple of years off, right? That
Yep.
you think too big to fail? No, it's not. Their
Right.
margin is small. What do you think is the change? Is it a change in the industry? Is it just the way it is right now? You need the right people running it. What do you think is the change in that?
I think, give it a few years. I think things will kind of shake out. New people will come, give it a try.
Goes back to that workforce aspect. Somebody
Yep.
has to take the lead on it.
Right. So I don't think live music's dead. I think it's just having some growing pains, which is normal. And I think Grand Forks has struggled for a lot of years for live music. I've heard since the flood.
Sure.
So hopefully someone comes to town and takes a chance and brings live music back.
No, and that's it. I've had people come up to me and they're just like, "Well, what's the matter?" And I'm like, "I don't think it's one thing that's the matter."
Right.
Right?
You know what the one thing is?
What is
If
it?
something comes to town, and maybe it's not your cup of tea, or go support it. You got to get out there. I think for things to really thrive in Grand Forks, we need to support it.
Sure. Oh, and that's interesting. It's the you talk with people. Grand Forks is a big small town, right? And that's that small town mentality a little bit of. I remember my father used to say this all the time. If we can't buy it at the local grocery store, we're not going to buy it because I'm not going to a different store
Yep.
and spend my money over there. Right? We're going to support the local store.
Right, 100%. So get out and go check it out. If it's the street fair or
Sure.
the pep rally, whatever. Maybe it's not an interest to you. Just go check it out. Holly Dazzle, go check it out.
Yeah, another DDA event, right?
Yes.
Holiday. When is Holidazzle this year?
It's always I should have double checked this, but it's always the Sunday before Thanksgiving.
Sunday before Thanksgiving.
Yes.
Sunday before Thanksgiving. It's always a fun one. I've been there before, and let's just say I'm just feeling back in my fingers. It was a little chilly.
Yep.
Been there before and barely wore a jacket.
Right. Last year was 40, I think.
Right. And the lights parade is a lot of fun. I will say this: Grand Forks does a great job with parades.
Yeah.
With the parades we do, knock them out of the park. Right.
And the other thing I would mention too is if you like events, try volunteering. Like volunteering's generally pretty fun. I mean, you meet some people, you push some crates, or you can help decorate wreaths. But sign up to volunteer.
When you talk about the music festival side of it, though, that is a very specialized, not so much some of the volunteering thing, but as far as some of the work you need done for that, that's hard to come off of the street and do. When you're
Not
talking rigging work though, and stage
yeah.
work and audio work, and that's
Rigging definitely. But we had a ton of volunteers. Tricia Berg, and I nicknamed her my favorite volunteer. I had never met her before.
Oh, really?
But her and her husband came every day and volunteered.
oh no, that's awesome.
But so those people were greeters, or
Okay, right.
Golf cart drivers. No experience necessary. But even as a stagehand, I know David Karinko has been a downrigger. They trained him.
Has he?
Or he was a puller. He was maybe a puller. So they
For
put
those
him,
wanting, Dave Garinko is one of our city engineers. That's awesome.
yeah, they put him in the catwalk, and he is in charge of pulling. I mean, it's hard work.
Yeah.
But yeah, get out and try it.
It's one of those specialized things. I still dabble in the TV side a little bit. I
Yeah.
throw a camera on my shoulder, and then the game is done, and I can't feel my arm, and I'm like, what am I doing?
Right.
What am I doing? And then a week later, I get a phone call. Yeah, sure, I'll go.
Right, but it makes you feel alive, right?
It is. I use the term. It scratches an itch.
Yeah.
Right. I enjoy sports. I enjoy live television. Yeah, I'll do a game.
Yeah.
I'll do a game. It's a good time. Well, Trish, I appreciate your input on this. This is it's something that not everyone has the background knowledge of or has worked in it. But there's articles in the newspaper. It's a topic. Well, let's talk to somebody who's actually been there, who's been in those meetings,
Yes.
to see how it's going. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
And also good luck on Halloween.
Awesome.
What, 1,000? Think you'll get 1,000? Oh, with the candy reduction thing, what? Only 800?
Well, we don't have that anymore because we don't have the equipment.
Oh.
So now we're back up.
Look at you.
I have to go buy candy for 1,000.
That's right. Well, you have teenage kids. They can do it then.
Yes.
Right? Or they're dressed up in a bush to try to scare kids away.
Right. Yeah, they're going to show up.
All right, Tricia, thank you very much. I appreciate
you.
it. And thank you to Tricia Lunski, Ward 4 City Council member. And if you want to catch this episode or any other previous episode of the City Chatter podcast, be sure to go to grandforksgov.com/podcast, where you can also find out we're picking up leaves. We're coming to get you. We're going to get all of them, every single one, no leaf left behind. All right, thank you very much. We'll catch you next time.